Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on the Mastercard virtual event Collaborate to Innovate, which is taking place on the 23rd and 24th of February. That is next week. My name is Zinati Guma and I'm your host. Now, the event brings together C-suite business leaders, telcos, fintechs, retailers, airlines, futurists, and motivational speakers. People that are shaping the digital business landscape of our region and beyond. Now, part and parcel of the future of technology is that of digital payments. Now, the convergence of payment methods has transformed to meet customer expectations, streamline transactions, and provide seamless integration, and emerging markets are currently driving the growth of digital payments. Now, to help me unpack digital payment transformation is Jorn Lambert, the Chief Digital Officer at Mastercard. Now, Jorn, before we get into the details of technology and the event that's taking place next week, I just want to understand your role as the Global Chief Digital Officer. I mean, Mastercard is one of the biggest and most trusted technology brands in the world.
Well, thanks, Zinati. And first of all, thanks for having us. Delighted to be here with you. So my role, Chief Digital Officer, means that we are within Mastercard for all consumer solutions in a very big transformation towards digital. And so my group, my team is looking after that, making sure that we're delivering here and now the digital products for our consumers, but also looking ahead over the next 3-5 years about where the world is going, where commerce is going, and therefore how we can support that.
Now, I did mention that there is the Mastercard virtual event, Collaborate to Innovate, taking place next week on the 23rd and the 24th of February. And you're giving a keynote address on the 24th on the topic, Emerging Markets, a Catalyst for Digital Payment Transformation. Please just help me explain what the trends in digital payments are, and also what does it matter to emerging markets?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So first and foremost, we've been on a journey towards digital payments for the last decade or something. And obviously with COVID, as people are stuck at home, as shops close, as people can't go to work, we've seen an enormous acceleration of digital commerce. That's virtually the only way in which payments and commerce can happen. And so, we probably saw 5 years of a secular growth compressed in just a couple of months. And people turned to digital for, entertainment, for social interaction, for education, obviously also for commerce and payments. When you think about Africa in particular, I think we're seeing an enormous surge in e-commerce. Obviously that's kind of something that perhaps not the entire population was already tapping into, but that has grown dramatically. But also changes in-store payments whereby contactless, so when you tap a card on a terminal or tap a phone on a terminal, QR codes where you scan a QR code and pay, but also the mobile money wallets in Africa has seen an enormous surge and I think come to its own in that sense. In terms of the insights there, I think there's a couple of profound insights that we all have to realize. The first one, which is a bit of a cliche, is that it's all about simplicity. Consumers expect simplicity. And the reason why I mention it, despite it being a cliche, is because I believe truly that the difference between winners and losers in this industry will be about those who bring that simplicity to bear. If you see the enormous growth in the super apps, for example, you're seeing that those apps are not just about the scope of services, but is about how simple those services are delivered. It also means that financial payment services is not just anymore the realm of financial services companies. It's the realm of many more people that are all working together towards delivering that experience. I think the second insight is that consumers are taking back control. So, for a long time, I believe consumers didn't have a good sense of how data is being used, how their privacy is being respected. And I think throughout COVID and throughout this new level of maturity, people want control. They want to actually determine who's using the data and what for. And so it's incumbent to us as an industry to make sure that we are respecting privacy and security and provide people with that control. In terms of your second point, Zenati, around why does it matter? I think there's a very profound implication of this drive towards digital payments, which I think people don't quite fully appreciate. But as more and more people use digital payments, they are building up credit history. And as they build up credit history, there is an opportunity for these people to now have access to different forms of lending. That may be that you need credit to buy produce to put in your store. You might need credit in order to buy a phone to get orders in. You may need to buy a motorcycle to deliver your orders. And in a cash economy, it's impossible for people to get access to credit because nobody has data to underwrite this credit. Now that there's a record of your transaction history, lenders can lend, the economy can grow, and there's a lot more competition emerging in that lending so that consumers not only benefit from opportunities to lend, but actually steep competition and therefore the better rates. So in our view, the emergence of digital payments and the adoption that we're seeing now is crucial to build a very prosperous and thriving economy. And we're delighted to see that kind of digital inclusion agenda progressing.
And of course, I mentioned earlier on that at this virtual event, Collaborate to Innovate, there will be a whole host of stakeholders involved there, stakeholders that do shape the digital payment ecosystem. Mastercard has really emphasized, collaboration, partnerships. Why this emphasis?
Well, look, I mean, think about it. If you want to buy something on, say, Jumia, you're maybe on a Samsung mobile phone that runs on an Android operating system that has a Vodacom contract with it that probably runs a Chrome or a Firefox browser. And you're doing that with a Mastercard credential coming from, say, First National Bank. And you may tap into a microcredit facility from Asante. That alone are 8 parties that somehow need to come together to provide that simple purchase that you want to do on Jumia into something that is secure, that is private, that is seamless, and that is simple for the consumer, right? And so nobody in this whole equation, nobody of these 8 parties owns the consumer, as people used to like to say, right? Nobody owns the consumer, but we all have the right to serve that consumer. And in order to serve that consumer, we need to come together and align on standards, align on processes, align on principles that then come together into this solution. So partnership is crucial. As a network, it's the kind of bread and butter of what we've done over the decades, but it's more important than ever. And I think specifically in Africa, there is this huge, surge of mobile money led by the telcos. We've done now these partnerships with a Vion, an MTN, an Airtel, and actually many more to go. And we feel through that partnership, every party brings the best they have to bear to get to the right consumer solution. So nobody will do it on their own, and partnerships is the way to go.
The camera caught me smiling there a bit, and that was my mind being blown by the fact that for a simple transaction, there's so many parties involved, and I'd actually never thought about it. And of course, it is very important, as you explained, that these stakeholders need to be involved in order to create a product that is simple and seamless. Very, very interesting there, Jorn. So, I mean, with the challenge of COVID-19, 2020 has taught us to be more resilient. From the past few years, what learnings can you take away in the digital space, and what can we expect for 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, so look, I mean, if I look towards the future, I would say we haven't seen nothing yet in terms of innovation, right? The next 5 years are going to see some massive changes with, for example, 5G coming to us, with Internet of Things coming to a certain level of maturity, with cloud and edge computing accelerating innovation throughout, with the blockchain and cryptocurrencies coming to mainstream, with artificial intelligence powering all this and providing insights. And so I think we should brace ourselves for a much faster wave of innovation coming out. Now, what COVID has done is that it's not only provided or shown that consumers are resilient, but also they're very adaptable. right? In the space of very little time, they've adapted their way of life, they've adapted their way of buying and paying very quickly. And that tells me that there is actually much more openness and much more preparedness from the part of consumers to adopt new technologies. I mean, if anything, the whole frenzy around cryptocurrencies that we've seen in recent weeks is a demonstration that consumers are actually interested or curious about what these innovations can bring to them, right? Now, I think it's incumbent to us, though, to, beyond all the hype, to actually focus on real-world problems for real people, and not to kind of get too enamored with the tech, right? There's no point to tech unless it's actually solving problems for people. And that's where I think we should focus on first. I expect in 2021 a continued decrease in electronic payments. There's no question about this. As economies rear back into gear, payments will follow, but people won't go back to the old habits. If they change to digital commerce, they will stay there. Very few people will go back to just the cash economy. And in many respects, I believe that Africa, having made such a leap, will leapfrog the more developed markets. Just like in telephony, for example, much of Africa has never put landlines in place, but they jumped right to mobile payments. It is very likely that big parts of Africa will never install this kind of terminals or cards. They will leapfrog to mobile payments right away. And so I expect from this region a lot of innovation, a lot of entrepreneurship, and in many respects lead the world on certain points of this innovation.
And I mean, Jorn, in terms of, you've mentioned that we are adapting to these technologies as much as it is still intimidating, especially maybe when you get to a certain age. It does feel kind of, intimidating, all these terms. But yeah. But I mean, you do mention that, in Africa, especially, we are adapting quite quickly. And I just want to know, with the pace of innovation that is currently going on, in terms of regulation, are regulators catching up to the pace of innovation in Africa and emerging markets as quickly as they are catching up to the pace of innovation in more developed countries?
It's a great question. And I mean, regulations have the responsibility to keep their customers safe, or their citizens safe. And so they would naturally take a prudent and perhaps slightly conservative approach towards innovation. I actually think that's a good thing, right? I don't think that regulators should jump onto, say, cryptocurrencies just because it's cool. They should actually understand how it helps their citizens and understand the unintended consequences of that. And in that respect, I think it's also our role to engage with regulators to explain both the benefits but also the risks, and how to curb some of the risks. We have all a vested interest in the fact that money laundering is avoided, the fact that terrorist financing is avoided, the importance of keeping fraud at bay. Now, I feel that actually there is a catch-up happening in Africa as well. I think in some respects, some of the African regulators lean into mobile money, for example, and are ahead of some of their developed markets counterparts. There's a long way to go. There's much to do still in order to foster financial inclusion, but I think it's incumbent on the private sector not just to point fingers and say that they're slow, but actually to work with them and to exchange ideas around that, and to make sure that we bring those innovations at this value to the citizens.
And indeed, collaboration is the center of it all. Thank you so much for joining me, Jorn. That's where we'll have to leave it today. That was Jorn Lambert, the Chief Digital Officer at Mastercard, just unpacking the developments in the digital space and also what to look forward to in 2021 and beyond. Thank you very much for joining us on this special broadcast on CNBC Africa. My name is Zinati Goma, and that's it from me for today.